So you'll get a recording of this with a follow-up email, hopefully by Monday afternoon. And I would say go ahead and check out this video. It's a really cool illustration of what Global Entrepreneurship Week is and how to use video. Also, again, check out our ConstantContactSeminars.com this afternoon from 11 to 12. We have Kimberly who's going to talk about jump-starting your holiday marketing and results. So great little tips to kind of get going with your holiday seasons and promotions. And then if you want to find other places that we love, the favorite four-letter word, free, these places have free workshops or free consulting as well. If you look at Casey's Source Link or the link Source Links, they connect small businesses with services that will help them grow their business. And then for those of you, everyone has a SCORE or a Small Business Development Center. So you might want to check that out in your area. The SCORE allows you to go and get free consulting as well as the Small Business Development Centers. So we work with them nationally, and we love how they support our economy as well as the entrepreneurs who are seasoned entrepreneurs or their startups. So need help? Reach out to the Small Business Development Centers or SCORE. Also, Constant Contact is here just to make your life easier. We know that you don't have deep pockets for marketing, so we have online marketing tools to help you grow your business and your social, and that's anything from email marketing to event marketing to online surveys. If we can help you get started, let us know. Again, just reach out to me. I'll give you my email address too with a follow-up. So if we can help you get started, it's as little as $20 a month to send out to up to 500 customers, as much as you want through the month. And we have wonderful templates that are holiday templates. We have great customer service. They talk Bostonian in Loveland, Colorado. And we're just here to help you make your business go and get you more customers and keep those. So I'm going to switch my screen over here to Nicholas. Nicholas is a marketing specialist, and he owns his own agency as well. So I'm going to flip over here and unmute Nicholas. Hey Nicholas, yeah, oops, here we go. There we go. Nicholas is in Kansas City as well, and I'm so delighted to have him here. He's going to teach us some stats about the Hispanic market. And tell us a little bit about yourself, Nicholas.
Well, Paige, thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this webinar this morning. Basically, I started in Hispanic marketing years and years ago when I worked at Kansas City's largest Hispanic bilingual newspaper, Dos Mundos. And when I was there, I was watching the media grow in Hispanic media, as well as so many clients who are interested in reaching the Hispanic market. So that's when I really decided to go out on my own and work with clients from a multimedia perspective versus just print. And that's where we got started. So let's see, Paige, should we go ahead and get started with the presentation?
Yeah, and sure, I just want to let you know too as well, those that are on, again, thank you. You might want to take a look if there's any questions that you have throughout. We can also make sure that you get those answered. So just type in the comment box, and then we'll break for a little bit at the end too, or maybe throughout. But we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Nicholas, and thank you so much for your time.
All right, well, great. Well, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about your brand and the Hispanic audience. What I try to do is I try to connect brands with the Hispanic consumer and consumers with your brand or services. And what this really entails is doing a lot of education for brands and marketing professionals, because they're all trying to understand how to reach this growing Hispanic audience. And then on the other side is the Hispanic audience, and once you develop those campaigns, getting those campaigns out there so that the Hispanic audience can understand your brand. So what we're going to be doing is talking all about the different parts of that today. And you know, it's certainly a very complex a discussion, certainly not something I could cover the entirety of in the next hour, but definitely want to hit some major points that we come across on a very frequent basis when it comes to Hispanic marketing. Just to give you a background of who I am, I again started about 15 years ago when I was working at Dos Mundos bilingual newspaper. Started my own agency, Che Creative, which was after a couple of years was purchased by a larger advertising agency, and that worked out well. And then I did it again and started Somos. And Somo started out as really representing ethnic talent to marketing individuals, because there's so many clients who are looking to do Hispanic marketing, but they need talent. So we found those ethnic faces to be in their marketing campaigns, whether it's television, radio, print, or web. But now, of course, we saw that they needed a direction on developing those creative communications. And so that's when we really started ramping up our services. And then, of course, that created our services on and giving cultural insights to how to reach the Hispanic market as well. Because really, I'll say this again and again, that Hispanic marketing is more than just translating your information into Spanish. There really is to be a cultural relevance that's incorporated into the campaign. So we're going to be talking about things like that today. So just recently, we were highlighted in Kansas City Business Magazine. Kansas City Business Magazine is Katie Van Luchin is the editor-in-chief over there. And what they were doing is they're highlighting a lot of businesses who are making a big difference in the Kansas City market. And one of the things that we're always talking to our clients about is tapping into this untapped market. There's so many opportunities for brands who are first to market. And when you think about your particular company and you think about your competitors, how many of those competitors have gotten into the Hispanic market? When you look at them, most likely not many have, if any at all. So therefore, what this does is this gives you an opportunity to be the very first to market. And you, as we all know, that when you're first to market, you can gain the greatest returns of investment. So we just recently did that. The Kansas City Star also did an interview with us as well, just as to why and why we're tapping into this market, why we're helping clients tap into it, and ultimately what I believe that we're really trying to do is help businesses grow, because they're tapping into a market that's growing tremendously, but so many companies have yet to really tap into this growth. We're also highlighted as one of the 100 people making a big difference in Kansas City, and that was in KC Magazine. And then, of course, in 2013, I was highlighted as a Minority Small Business Champion of the Year in the Kansas City area. So I have just been working on really getting this word out. I'm certainly a brand evangelist on Hispanic communications in the market, and it's kind of a unique place to be in the marketplace. So in brief today, what we're going to be doing is we're just going to be talking about short media history about Hispanic consumers. We're going to be talking about the current state of Hispanic consumers and what's going on in their world, and what's going to be going on in the future. And then, of course, best practices on reaching some Hispanic consumers. In the end, I'm going to be giving you all some really great materials that you all can review from Nielsen, which is, of course, Nielsen Ratings, who gives you a great reports on what's going on in the consumer marketplace and media. And really, when you consider your brand and reaching out to Hispanic consumers, you're always thinking about, okay, well, what's the best way to do it? Well, Nielsen has some really great information for you all to review, and I'm going to be sharing that with everyone at the end of the seminar. So let's go back in time a little bit. Back around 2003, that's when I was working at Dos Mundos, the newspaper. The New York Times printed an article that talked about how Hispanic consumers were now the largest minority in the United States. And when you think about how we're jumping back in time to 2003, that was more than 10 years ago. There are so many companies who have yet to reach out to the Hispanic consumer, and yet they've been the largest Hispanic group since 2003. That's more than 10 years ago, and I find that really fascinating because this group is growing so rapidly. In fact, we're going to go over some numbers about that figures and how that may be affecting marketplaces today. So let's jump more to the present. A couple years ago, in Forbes magazine, which is, of course, one of the leading business magazines, they did a full magazine on the Hispanic consumer and the trillion-dollar Hispanic market and how to reach it. The cover, of course, had Sofia Vergara on the cover, and she is and has been television's best-paid actress for a number of years now, making more than $12 million a year. She's the highest-paid actress in American television. So what we're talking about is just a powerful group of consumers and what their characteristics are and what we can do to tap into them. So, Forbes magazine, within that article, they had some really amazing numbers. One of the biggest quotes that I walked away with from this magazine article was, Hispanics now underserved by advertisers will be the most important U.S. growth market through mid-century. To me, that is such a powerful statement that when you consider all of the different marketplaces, all the different things that's going on in the United States, Hispanics, mentioned by Forbes magazine, are considered the most important U.S. growth market through mid-century. And when I consider marketing and clients and what they're trying to tap into, I often see that many clients have yet to start tapping into this, and yet they're considered this important by Forbes magazine. That was back in 2012, and now we're about to start 2015, about 3 years later. So where are we at? So let's look at what's going on. One of the things that we can add to this bit of information is that the U.S. Census Bureau, they also add that Hispanics will continue to grow at a 167% growth rate until 2050. That is a huge number, 167 growth rate, especially when you compare Caucasian Americans who are growing until 2050 at a 1% growth rate. When I think about where I want to invest my money in terms of market growth and investments, I think that the 167% growth rate is much more of a better investment area. However, there are so many things that really stop companies from investing in that, and oftentimes it's analysis paralysis, and oftentimes it's just not understanding the Hispanic market. But really, when we do a little bit of research and information gathering, we can start to understand this market and really start to tap into this growth rate. Now, one of the big things that they talk about in advertising is also just millennials. Millennials is a big topic in a lot of advertising agencies. In fact, there's one agency right down the street whose main focus, and they're actually one of the largest independent advertising agencies in the United States, their main focus is just millennials. Now, one of the things they do is they talk about millennials all the time, but they often forget that millennials will make up more than 80% of the Hispanic growth population, or the entire growth population, for some time to come. And this, of course, will be very interesting for marketers to target and really tap into. So one of the things that it mentions here is talking about strategies and taking the rapid changes happening in the Hispanic market, what's going on in the composition, and what they're changing, what they're doing. What are Hispanic consumers doing, and how can we tap into that? That's really what we're going to be talking about. So back in 2010, the Hispanic market was worth $1 trillion. And as we grow, in the last 5 years, that spending power has grown by 50%. That's an astounding number when you think about that. But I think that one of the things that you can consider is the fact that the growth rate has been growing by 50% in terms of spending power, but that's including the fact that the population growth has been growing by 167%. So we really have a lot of, it's almost like the perfect storm of consumers that are spending. So we're here at the beginning of 2015. What's going to be happening in the future? Well, in the next 5 years, Selig Center for Economic Growth is talking about the spending power of Hispanics growing by 65%. That is by taking into account the spending power of the last 5 years as well as that 167% growth rate. The question is, do you want to tap into that market? And most oftentimes, clients do, but they're just wondering, how do we do it? What's the big thing? How do we really reach that? So let's talk about a dream consumer group, and that's really what I think of when I think of the Hispanic market. I consider them the dream consumer group. This is exactly what brand marketers want when it comes to reaching new consumers. So let's look at some more statistics. So Hispanics have made up more than 50% of the U.S. population growth in the last 10 years. More than 50%. And that's an amazing number because that's more than 50%. That's a big, big book. They're the largest and fastest growing population in U.S. history ever. And of course, with the Census Bureau saying that they're growing at a 167% growth rate, and including the fact that they are not having as many children, not coming across the border as fast as they are, we're talking about Hispanics who are in the United States already now. Another really fascinating thing about the Hispanic consumer group is that they're also 15 years younger than the general population. Now me, I'm 42 years old, and when I think about someone who's 27, 15 years younger, I know that there's a difference in behaviors in terms of media, in terms of entertainment, in terms of what they like to do for fun. And so, as well as technology, how they're using technology. So when we think about this, they're doing something different. We want to know what they're doing. But as well as when you think about Hispanic consumers being only 27 on average age, American consumers being 42, we've got a longer time to grow a consumer group with this Hispanic audience because they're so young, which means we've got years and years to grow consumers and brand loyalty. So of course, as I mentioned earlier, their spending power grew by 50% in the last 5 years. Again, that's an amazing number because their spending power grew by 50%. They made up more than 50% of the general population growth in the U.S. These numbers are pretty large and impressive. One of the interesting things about these young Hispanics is that they're also early adopters of technology. Recently, we were giving a presentation with Sprint, and they were showing some pictures of doing some research down in Central and Latin America. And they showed images of basically small homes in the middle of the forest. Literally, some of these homes had tin metal roofs and mud walls. But one of the things that you saw from the side of the house was not a radar, but satellite dish. And these individuals, even though they barely had enough money to build a full-on house, they have a satellite dish. So they're early adopters of technology. And not only that, but one of the things that Sprint also revealed was that they consider Hispanics the first to mobile populations, which means that they have bypassed computers and other technology, and they're doing the bulk of their technology and entertainment and communications through mobile devices. So that's just one area. We'll be talking about some other technology and what the early adoption is for Hispanics as well later on in the presentation. So they also have a higher use of social media than the general population by 20%. Now when we're talking about social media, we're talking about things like YouTube, we're talking about Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, which is one of the biggest areas of growth in terms of social media technologies, but they are spending more time on social media than the general American population by 20%. So certainly this is really a great way, and one of the big ways I'm talking to a lot of Hispanic nonprofit organizations to really ramp up on how to reach this market. They shop via mobile phones or tablets more than the general population as well. So when you think about these behaviors of being on social media, spending and shopping on mobile phones or tablets more than the general population, we know that we can start considering some strategies of how do we reach this Hispanic population utilizing technology, because that's where they're spending their time more than the regular American population. Stream video content on YouTube and Hulu by more than 18%. There's another technology-driven media place where people Hispanics are spending their time on YouTube. They're watching Hulu, and that might be on their Apple TV or their Chromecast, but they're doing it more than the general population by 18%, nearly 20%. That number is certainly to grow in just the next few years as technology continues to ramp up. Finally, Hispanic consumers are known as highly brand loyal. And one of the things that I like to mention is that, they are brand loyal, but they're brand loyal to brands who demonstrate that they have an understanding of the Hispanic market. And oftentimes, brands are still trying to figure out how to make Hispanics brand loyal, and we're going to talk about a little bit of that today. But certainly it is known that Hispanics are brand loyal, and I'm going to just simply say that, you know, when you consider that if you have a good understanding of another person, another friend, that shows that you can become loyal as a friend. But that kind of translates well into the Hispanic market, because they want to see that there is a brand, a service, an organization that understands them. And once you can show that you really understand who they are, what their what kind of life aspirations they may have, or how your service may connect with them, they're going to say, wow, this brand really understands me. And so that's where you're going to develop that brand loyalty. So that's Hispanics in America right now. I want to talk about Hispanic women. One of the things that we did years ago was when it came to our first creative director, we decided to have a Hispanic woman from Mexico to be our creative director. Now, of course, she had been in America since her high school days, but she'd gone through college and did her marketing and advertising background. But we thought about, when it comes to consumers, what are the leading consumers in Hispanic consumers? They're Hispanic women. Even in the American marketplace, women are considered the main shoppers for household goods, or even when it comes to buying large items. We still want families still oftentimes look to the mothers and the women in the family to help make decisions. So while we're talking about all these things, one of the things that I want to plant a seed into your thoughts are that Hispanic women still are still considered major consumers. And when we think about our upcoming campaigns, we want to consider potentially aiming those towards Hispanic women, because they do make up such powerful decisions when it comes to shopping. In fact, let's look at even entrepreneurialism today, since we are celebrating Entrepreneurial Week and all the different people who make up entrepreneurialism. One of the things that the Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Administration will let you know is that Hispanic women are actually the leaders in business today. In fact, over the past decade, there's been nearly 200% increase in Latina-owned businesses. They open businesses 6 times greater than the national average here in the United States. And of course, that was given to us by Cece Rojas. Cece was at one point part of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Currently, she is the executive director of the Central Exchange, which is a women's organization here in Kansas City, making a huge difference in women and entrepreneurialism today. But this goes to show that Latinas are very entrepreneurial, they're very driven, they're also very resourceful. And so what we want to do is consider, how can we really tap into that resourceful, driven, entrepreneurial minds that Latinas are making up in terms of doing business today. And potentially even partnering with them, because we see that they continue to start businesses in the United States. And this includes not only just house cleaning businesses. This right here is my neighbor Michelle, this image, my neighbor Michelle, who has a successful house cleaning business, but also even as high as technology support systems. There's another Latina in Kansas City. Her name is Jeanette Prenger Hernandez, and she owns Echo Select, which is one of the largest businesses here in Kansas City that are helping individuals support IT services around the nation. So how can your brand capitalize on all of this growth? That's what we're going to talk about now, because this growth is happening, and I feel like I'm in a very unique position in business. Not a lot of people can tell you what is going to happen in business. But when you talk about Hispanic consumers, there are a number of different organizations besides me telling you what's going to be happening in business today. There's Forbes Business Magazine, which is telling you that they are the most important growth market until mid-century. There's the U.S. Census Bureau, which is telling you that this population is growing at 167% growth rate. There's CLIG, which is telling you that their spending power is going to be growing by 65% in the next 5 years, but how can we capitalize on that growth? Well, one of the things that I always like to talk to people about is developing a strategic approach to their Hispanic marketing. Now, one of the things that when I jump ahead is that translating your information from English to Spanish does not equal a strategic plan. When I think about a strategic plan, I really think about developing an idea, the messages, all based on information about Hispanic consumers and what they're doing strategically, and how you can partner that with your service or brand. So developing that strategic approach can give you a roadmap to reaching that audience more successfully. And when I talk about a strategic approach, I really think about doing research as well, because we've really got unfortunately, due to media, the news, there's a great deal of misinformation about Hispanic consumers. And oftentimes I'm seeing a lot of marketers simply just going on what they've heard in the news or what they've seen on television, and a lot of stereotypes about Hispanic consumers, and that is not a strategic approach. So what we oftentimes are talking about, developing a plan that really reaches this Hispanic consumer based on information, based on research. So one of the big things that we consider in that approach is cultural relevance. And there are three major areas in cultural relevancy that is very basic and that we want to consider when developing that campaign. So one of the big barriers that we talk about when it comes to Hispanic consumers is language. Let's talk about language for just a little bit, because this is one of the big barriers that oftentimes businesses can't seem to get past when it comes to reaching Hispanic consumers. Oftentimes, brands will come to me and they say, well, we don't have enough bilingual staff yet to reach Hispanic consumers. Well, oftentimes that's what their only focus is, whether it's translating their information into Spanish, translating their marketing materials into Spanish, having bilingual staff. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes to language, most Hispanic consumers, the bulk of them, nearly 75% of Hispanic consumers are bilingual and more, or even English dominant than we suspect. But I believe, again, that media does a disservice in terms of giving ideas about what Hispanic consumers are and what how they speak. So what I want to do is just talk about how Hispanic consumers, while Spanish is a very important part, and I would also say that having your materials in Spanish is also good for those non-English speakers. It also does a great thing in terms of public relations, because those English-dominant speakers who are wanting to reach English-dominant Hispanics, they look at your efforts as a brand to reach Hispanic consumers and your translation as a great service. They look at that and they say, hey, this brand's doing something to reach our other Hispanic brothers and sisters. And translating it into Spanish is a great public relations move, but I don't always think it's necessary. For example, recently we were doing some work and some consulting with Waddell & Reed, which is a financial firm. They're looking for consumers who are going to be finding a financial advisor. And their first message thought was, well, hey, we've got to translate everything into Spanish. But I would say that that's not necessarily true, because they're looking for Hispanic consumers that are interested in making financial investments in their retirement, big financial investments in terms of new financial markets. Those are generally going to be second and third generation Hispanics who are going to be English dominant. Instead of just focusing on language, I said, let's focus on really the message that you want to put out there in terms of, we want to reach Hispanic consumers. How can we do that in terms of public relations and getting messages across that they're open for that particular audience. Jumping up to cultures and value, understand and recognize the importance of family values, aspirations, leisure, humor, warmth, inner circle. So when we think about your brand, your service, and the Hispanic market on the other side of that, how can we connect those? right in the middle of there is the values of Hispanic consumers and how your brand can reach that audience. Recently, I was just speaking to a credit union, and I've been wanting to work with a credit union for a very long time on Hispanic consumers, because when I think about credit unions are member-owned, and they are community-driven. And so to me, those are two huge values that connect with the Hispanic consumer. Member-owned. You're not just a little person in a big bank, but you're actually an owner at the credit union. And not only that, but they give loans to those members, and they give the profits back to the members in terms of the profit sharing that the credit union members all share. To me, this is a really great opportunity to connect a service with a culture. And that's where you start considering understanding the value of those culturally relevant messages. That also plays into behavior. How do Latinos use your products and service differently? You know, just because American consumers use your product one way doesn't necessarily mean Latinos are going to use it the very same way. So you'll want to consider, how do Latinos use your product or even see your product differently than the regular market? This is super important, and that really kind of leads me to doing some research within that audience. There's so many companies I find that are wanting to get into this market, and they want to do that without doing any research, and which is really surprising because, of course, we're all marketing professionals. But doing research, even as a Hispanic marketing professional myself, I find that I'm learning new things all of the time simply by doing focus groups, doing surveys, doing interviews with Latinos. Recently we were doing an interview with a Latina talking about the bicultural life that she lives. And, you know, where at home she's with a Hispanic family that all speaks Spanish, but then, of course, she leaves the home, and during the day she walks around the United States like just an American. She speaks to everyone else and does American things. But she said that even within her own home, there is a bicultural experience going on, because her sisters who were born in America, they get treated differently than her because she was born in Mexico. That was something that I was surprised about and didn't know about until I did a little bit of research and interviewing of this market. So I'm constantly learning even new ideas and stories about this market. So again, just putting a bullet point on doing research in the marketplace. So let's talk about search, because when it comes to Hispanic consumers, they are spending more time on the web, social media, than the general market. So here are just a few numbers for you to consider. 84% of Hispanics use search engines for information. But what's interesting is that 93% of Hispanics use Google, and most of those keywords that they type in are in English, not Spanish. Only 10% of overall U.S. searches are in Spanish. And 70% of Hispanics are using their smartphones to use search. 70% smartphones. That's mobile technology. And therefore, when it comes to developing those campaigns, this gives us a little bit of insight on focusing our campaigns potentially on mobile technology. Finally, it says that Hispanics are 29% more prone to be heavy searchers, 20 to 70% via mobile phones than the general market. So that's almost 30% more in the general market, and it really leaves us a really great opportunity to know which direction we may want to put our campaigns when it comes to this marketplace. I want to talk about some search best practices, because when we're talking about Hispanic consumers, certainly mobile and web and social are first places I want to direct clients to go, because that's where they're spending more time. When it comes to these type of best practices, we always say that it's always best to have two campaigns, one in English, one in Spanish. Here's a good example. Let's talk about carros, or cars. You know, when you start developing these campaigns, you might do two different campaigns, one in English, one in Spanish. Campaign A, only Spanish words in English Google. and you would exclude English words to avoid overlap with the general market. So campaign A, it's a car. Terms English browser. Campaign B, we would use Spanish and English words in Spanish Google. So here we go. We've got the keywords carro, carros, coche, coches, automobile, automobiles. Now you'll notice all of these are correctly spelled, but when we look at the other side, we also want to include those words. But one little tip that I would share is that we also want to use misspelled words as well. When we're typing in on mobile devices or even web, sometimes we're typing really fast, and certainly when you're dealing with a language issue, you may consider the fact that it is also really easy to misspell things or just utilize phonics. Therefore, misspelling search engine words can often help your consumers find your brand as well. I want to jump also to social media, because we were talking earlier about Nielsen, and we're talking about Hispanic consumers and how they're spending so much time on the web, their mobile devices, and social media. Here are some really big numbers that Hispanic consumers are pumping out when it comes to social media. So we've all seen that there are celebrities on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook. Hispanic consumers are 25% more likely to follow a celebrity online. I'm sorry, follow a brand. 18% are more likely to follow a celebrity. These are big numbers because if your brand can really tap into this marketplace by showing that you understand them, 25% Hispanics are going to be more likely to follow you. 21% more likely to post links, articles, videos, and websites. So that means that they're a very social thing. And I feel what's really interesting about social media is that really just taps into the nature of Hispanic consumers. Maybe you've heard that Hispanic consumers are more social. They tend to, instead of talking about business right away when they meet someone, they talk about family and where you come from, and they have a social interaction with you before jumping into the business place. That's where I feel like social media really taps into the nature of Hispanic consumers. 17% more likely to build or update a personal blog. So there, of course, they want to share information. And 7% more likely to have one or more social networking profiles. So they may have a Twitter, they may have a Facebook, they may have a LinkedIn, they may have a Tumblr, and they're managing all of these profiles, and 7% more than the general population. So they're certainly socially connected, and of course this all goes to support the information that they're technology-driven and early adopters. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard of Leo Burnett. It's a huge national ad agency out of New York City. They did some research on Hispanic consumers as well, utilizing mobile and social as well. So as you can see by some of these numbers here, 9% more use a smartphone, 51% versus 41% of the general population. Regularly text, 47%, 29% versus 24% on streaming Hulu and YouTube, and regularly use mobile apps, 20% versus only 14%. What this tells us again is that when it comes to campaigns, that this is going to be a very powerful media tool for your brand to consider reaching Hispanic consumers. What about shopping? Hispanic consumers who shop via mobile phone or tablet. Again, early adopters of technology, we can see that Hispanics are 56% to shop on their mobile phone versus only 33% of the general population. That's a 20% bump. When it comes to the tablet, it's 31%, and therefore businesses, when it comes to on the tablets, they are 45% versus 25% shopping on their tablets as well. Hey, Paige, can you hear me? We've got some noises back there, Paige. Is that you? All right.
We can hear it. Lots of fun stuff going on.
Yeah. So online and offline social activities, again, these numbers are really just supporting the fact that they're using more social networking sites and sharing with friends and family. These are very social people, and they share opinions and write reviews as well. So social, 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 that's one big key thing to consider. They're over-indexing more than the general population, generally by around 20%. Again, we were talking about YouTube. Just the other night, I was approached by a realtor, a large realtor here in the United States, and they want to get onto Univision and create their own show. Well, I said, hey, that's going to be really hard because Univision has most of their time already slotted up with shows that are national, and generally from a local perspective, they're given about 1% of time to us to produce on a local level. But I suggested, hey, if you're trying to reach Hispanic consumers, why not create your own channel on YouTube? Because that's where they're trying to reach Hispanic consumer groups. And Hispanic video viewers are 68% more likely than non-Hispanics to watch videos on YouTube. So this, again, YouTube creates an incredible marketplace for you to reach Hispanic consumers. Earlier this year at the NCLR conference, the National Council of La Raza, it's the largest Hispanic nonprofit organization in the United States. There are many organizations who were showing off their YouTube channel and how much success they had found in reaching Hispanic consumers because they had produced content that was targeted for Hispanic consumers and simply just put it on YouTube. So I want to get finally to a point where we're talking about some tips to reach Hispanic consumers. Tips and tricks. So I think one of the main things that we've been talking about today is doing research. Doing research, ask questions, focus groups. These simple opportunities, these simple techniques that we're have a very good understanding of can help us really get a great insight to what Hispanic consumers are wanting. You also want to consider, who is that demographic that you're reaching out to. I don't like to just say Hispanic consumers. One of the things that I consider is that, in America, on Sundays, we've got people who watch NASCAR on Sundays, and we've got a demographic that watches Nova on Sundays, Nova on PBS. Those are two different groups, and so we've got to consider what's our target in that audience and how we reach them. So we want to know, are we trying to reach women? Are we trying to reach men, children, Hispanics, senior citizens? Those types of things are part of the strategic plan, and you want to do that research so that you can find out what's important to them and how it will connect to your brand. Also, consider the cultural connection of your brand and service. It's when you're doing a seminar like this and people are asking about Hispanic consumers, they want to all know how to do it. But you've got your brand, your service, and you've got Hispanic consumers, and you've got to bridge that gap between them. But with that gap in the middle there is the cultural relevancy that takes place between your brand and that Hispanic consumer group. So by doing some research, asking questions, it will help you answer the cultural connection of your brand or service to Hispanic consumers. Research, consider the cultural connection. That will help you also understand the Hispanic demographic. For example, if you're selling toys, you may be very much trying to reach that Hispanic mother, but you may also be trying to reach those Hispanic children. Let's say it's a toy for children for 10 and younger. So therefore, those campaigns are going to be targeted, and you don't just want to just say, we're just trying to reach Hispanic. We're trying to reach Hispanic women. So you'll want to focus on that. One of the big areas that is kind of omitted when it comes to Hispanic marketing is public relations. And one of the things that is really fascinating about Hispanic media is that there's a Hispanic population who is hungry for brands who understand them. I'm going to say that again. The Hispanic population is hungry for brands who understand them, who want them to be their consumers. We're looking for brands who want us and to show us that they want us. But to build upon that, and what's even greater is that you've got a Hispanic media group out there, whether it's newspapers, radio, print, and these news outlets are also eager to find brands who are trying to reach that Hispanic marketplace. They're eager to tell the stories of brands who are doing something, making a difference to reach Hispanic consumers. So you've got those two great pieces of the storm right there that you can tie together and reach Hispanic consumers. So I would definitely encourage brands and services to tap into Hispanic media using public relations to tell your brand story. Because when the newspaper, as we know just in media in general, when the newspaper is telling your story, the credibility level of your brand or service goes way up. Finally, one of the things that we did some research on Hispanic consumers for a large grocery company not too long ago. And what we found was that developing relationships with Hispanic nonprofit organization is also very key. Hispanics are looking for brands who are not just trying to reach Hispanic consumers, but also trying to help the community. So developing a partnership with nonprofit organizations that are Hispanic focused is also a really great way to tap into public relations. These stories, these basic things right there can really get your story, your brand, and your service out there into the Hispanic market and make your brand and services look culturally relevant and community involved. And these two key things right there, culturally relevant, community involved, are very, very important aspects to the Hispanic population and market. Okay. Go to the next slide. Oops. Okay. Let me jump back real quick. So basically when it comes to it, here at Somos, what we do is we really try to help brands and organizations really tap into this marketplace. We develop these strategies, develop the insights by asking a lot of questions, honestly. We've got the cultural team that really, we've developed an advertising agency basically that is of a multicultural makeup. Coming from people from Brazil, from Mexico, from America, from Costa Rica, and even sometimes from Spain. And so we tap into these individuals to come up with culturally relevant campaigns for our clients and strategies that can give them a good roadmap to find success in that market. Marketing communications, we also can help organizations produce that. So once you come up with the strategy and the ideas, then you can start developing those campaigns, whether it's in print, in radio, television, social, web. That's where Somos can really help you as well. And finally, as we started out as an ethnic talent agency by having a pool of ethnic talent to produce that work. One of our biggest clients is Hallmark Cards here in Kansas City, and we get calls from them all the time where, for example, right now they're looking for a 10-year-old bilingual boy to do promotion for one of their new toys. They're looking for Hispanic babies to be in their cars. They're looking for African-American mothers. They come to us for that ethnic talent, and we have that ethnic talent that we can use to develop those marketing communications. They really kind of support one another. Now, as I mentioned earlier today, what we're going to be doing is we're also going to be sharing with everyone some really great reports. I share these with clients usually when we first start talking about information, and really this is just to give them the power, give them some information on the background of the power of the Hispanic market. This first report is Nielsen, State of the Hispanic Consumer. And they call it the Hispanic Market Imperative. That's really a powerful word right there, the imperative, because it's almost like this has to be done. And then on the other side is the Latina Power Shift, how Latinas are making a difference in business and consumerism today. So we're going to be sharing that with all of the people who are part of Paige's group and beyond, and feel free to share that with your friends as well. This information is really powerful, very interesting, and will certainly keep your attention as you're reviewing it. So finally, feel free to follow me anytime or give me a call and just ask some questions. I'm always happy to answer questions regarding the Hispanic market and what's going on there. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and all you have to do is simply put /Nicholas Segura. And certainly you can check out our website at somosagency.com, and you can look at some of our talent and answer, and feel free just to read any of our articles that we posted in the past. So Paige, I'll just open it up to questions, or if you want to just talk a little bit, that's pretty much the presentation. That's been really fun.
Hey, Nicholas, I have learned so much. I just did not, my eyes are wide open with the growth from the consumer base as well as the startup. And I think the things and tips that you offer us to get to know the Hispanic consumer is the surveys, which of course Constant Contact can do. We have a survey tool, but focus groups, interviews, and I really, we can't impart how important to the community, to relationships with the Hispanic nonprofits. I thought that was a good tip as well. I was blown away by the technology usage with the mobile tablets, social media, and the Google search kind of threw me back a little bit, that they're searching only 10% in their language instead of they use English more so, which I thought was incredible. And I thought it was great how you explained to us that, in a campaign, go ahead and do some of your own test, A and B tests, to kind of find out, what works best. Is it more English Google search terms or more of the Spanish Google keyword search campaigns? I thought that was fabulous too. And just the brand loyalty, and again, that they don't talk about business. It's really family first. So just simple things that I pulled out. I was taking notes like crazy. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
We do have tons of questions, so are you ready?
Sure.
So how important is it for someone to know the Spanish language when marketing to this segment?
Well, for someone I would say that's not necessarily critical. Again, it really depends on your product and service. It's really hard to just say you need to know Spanish, because it really depends again on product. For example, when you're working with Mercedes-Benz and they're trying to sell high-end cars, knowing the language is not critical. However, if you're talking about debit cards that Latinos can use instead of banking services, that would be much more critical to understand Spanish, because those Spanish-dominant consumers will be utilizing that language more than other types of services like jewelry or high-end cars. So it really depends on your product or service that you're getting out there. That again is where research comes in. How much is Spanish being used for my service and the Hispanic market, and tapping into that.
And that was with Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. She also asked, would you recommend to translate copy or create new cultural relevant copy in Spanish?
That's a very good question. We don't do translations. We do transcreations, because one of the things that I feel like I see in marketing and advertising is that here in America, people believe that if there's an English word, there's got to be a Spanish word that matches that, and that is not necessarily the truth. For example, when we were talking with Sprint, Kimber Umania, who's the head Hispanic marketing person over there, she was telling about this experience of the campaign was upgrade your upgrade, get a new phone. Well, there's no Spanish word for upgrade. And so, therefore, they had to develop a campaign message that said that idea, but it wasn't a complete perfect translation. You had to come up with a culturally relevant message that conveyed that idea. So that's where transcreations come in. And a direct translation doesn't always work. Here's another thing for marketers to know. When you do translations of material, what you'll also know is that Spanish will take up 30% more space in copy than English. So if you have a billboard, a brochure, you're going to need 30% more space in order to accommodate that Spanish language. So that's just a little tip for everybody.
Fantastic. Um, So this is Chuck, and Chuck, he's in the tree care, lawn, plant care, and landscaping business, and he handles online and traditional marketing, and he wants to expand his market, and he's in like Mako, which is Missouri, Kansas, oh, not Arkansas, but Oklahoma and Texas, sorry. So when reaching the Hispanic market, do you represent your message in both Spanish and English depending on the medium used? And I think we kind of answered that with Ruth too as well. But go ahead and, since you know his market a little bit, if you could kind of help him with that. Who usually purchases plant, lawn care, and is that more the woman decision or man or?
That's an interesting question because, the first thing that I think about is almost like the stereotypes of, Latinos who are like the lawn care gardeners of the United States. And one of the things that I would want to tap into is the aspirational aspect of Hispanic consumers. Hispanic consumers want to live that American dream. They want to have that big house. They want to have that gorgeous garden. And so when I think about the family that is growing their home, their family, and their beautiful lawn, I think about I see families on the lawn in the backyard enjoying their lawn versus so much like, how do I buy this stuff? So I would consider the aspirational aspect of Hispanic consumers and what they're hoping to be to develop that campaign. This could or could not include Spanish. For example, if you're doing direct mail, you may have something in Spanish on one side and English on the other. Maybe have a Latino family in there. But here's another interesting tip. One of the things that research has shown is that when you use a multicultural family or a family that is Hispanic versus a Caucasian family in a marketing piece, that having a minority family in a marketing piece reaches a broader audience. What it does is it reaches African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, and Caucasians as an audience. They relate to it better. They relate to it better than if you just use a Caucasian family in that piece. When you just use a Caucasian family, that kind of the African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, they don't really look at that piece and kind of relate to it. However, again, when you do that multicultural or diversity family pitch, then Caucasians, African Americans, Hispanic, and Asians all kind of relate to that piece a lot better. And that's really just kind of coming from the multicultural perspective of marketing. That just reaches a broader audience, and that can bring more consumers.
And I think you can do that online. I liked how you pulled in direct mail. Still not dead, still can use it, and it's just testing it out to kind of see what you get online better results with, whether with pictures or keyword. Again, just testing and trying. Hopefully that answers Chuck's question. Chuck, if not, just let me know. So just kind of type on back. And then we have a gas station owner, and he wants to know any helpful hints on, helping him tap into this market better. That was at the very beginning, so I'm sure he's learned some really key things. But can you think of a tip or two for him?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the products or the foods that potentially Latinos use, the candies, the pan dulce, which is like Mexican sweetbreads that Hispanics are used to, candies from Mexico or Latin America, that when they see that a brand has done some research and gotten those candies or those things that Latinos utilize from their native lands, that kind of